Welcome to another episode on the Move.Talk.Thrive podcast. Today, Em and I are going to unpack interviews from both the interviewer and the interviewee perspective. We're going to talk about what we're looking for in an interview and how we also prepare for those interviews, because it is definitely a two-way process, and we do need to sell ourselves when we're representing our business and we're interviewing applicants. So let's look at our processes and what we look for in our interviews.
We are child development obsessed, business besties, and mums, and we're here to spill all our secrets.
We have a combined 30 years experience working with children, and each episode we will bring you up-to-date research and evidence-based strategies to set your children up to thrive.
I'm Lizzy Dawson, Australian exercise physiologist.
I'm Emily Mackie, Australian speech pathologist,
And this is the Move.Talk.Thrive podcast.
Hey, love.
Hi, this is pretty timely, this chat with everyone graduating soon.
Yeah, true. And I'm interviewing this week at Kids Heart Pilates. So
Yeah, breeze
yeah,
into doing a few interviews at Speak About
yeah,
as well.
nice.
I feel like every year it gets sooner and sooner. Or earlier and
Mm,
earlier is probably the right word.
yeah.
I feel like when I graduated, I think I sent out my applications in like November. I landed a job December, started
Yeah,
the
I
year after.
started. I
But
started
now
in
it's
December.
it's it's September, right? Like it's
Mm,
pretty early. A lot of people still aren't even graduated, really.
yeah.
I finished or finished.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, they're all doing like I'm finding the ones that I'm interviewing now are all kind of tying off their last placements, last
Mm.
assessments, all of that sort of stuff. But we need someone to start in November. So I'm kind of getting them in as an AHA part-time to train them up, and then they'll hit the ground running pretty much.
I think that's a great pathway. Like while we're talking about that,
Mm,
or then listening to this and you're in second, third, fourth year, try and get a job as an allied health assistant or a therapy
yes.
assistant or even admin in a company or a workplace where you would like to work. I think that's the best way to get your foot in the door and learn, right? When I was
Really.
graduating, there was never opportunities like that. And I feel like when I went for an interview and then started working as a speechie, it was a very like hard, cold start
Yeah.
because I just didn't have any warm up. Whereas it's quite a nice process now as you can get in as an allied health assistant.
Yeah, I've got two at the moment, second year and third year EPs, and it's awesome. Like from an employer's perspective, it's awesome because you're essentially going to be able to train them up. It's the same with students. I find the same sort of thing, because you're going to provide them all that training, all of the kind of essentials in terms of their experience anyway, so that they're representing your business in a way that you want them to. So you're kind of doing all of that training. And then when they kind of step into the the actual clinical role, then they're good to go.
There's no pressure. There's not as much pressure for them, and they can learn in their own time as an AHA.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're qualified, I feel like there's a lot more pressure to move a bit more quickly. There's a lot more things to learn in a short
Mm.
space of time. So it's really good, isn't it?
It's really good. It's really
Mm.
good. And I
I
even
think it's a
like it from a
win-win.
business perspective because they've got a whole, like I've now got like the second year going into third year cohort. I've got access to them through one, and then the third year going to fourth year cohort. Like, do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like it's a lot of particularly when you're working with them, you're getting to know them quite
Mm.
well. I think
Mm.
that's it's pretty cool. Good way to
Yeah,
do
and the fact that they can also be pretty versatile, like they don't just have to do clinical work like they would as an
it.
EP. They can do admin, and I feel like that's been really helpful for our AHAs to actually
Yeah.
understand the back process of all the paperwork, because that's really hard to get your head around as a new grad. And understanding, the time it takes for admin to do these things and the templates, and then it helps them have a better appreciation and working relationship with admin, like when they're fully qualified.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
real win-win.
And I think it's good when they do go into that clinical role, they've got that experience. Like I think that
Yes.
whole perception, like understanding that those perspectives is really good.
Mm, mm. So, what are you looking for in your interviews? Because you said you're doing interviews. Was it today or last
Yeah,
week?
today and Thursday, which
How
is
do you do your
um
interviews?
so well, I've got like a whole application process. So before they are even sitting in front of me, they have done disc profiling. So I kind of know what sort of profile they've got, personality profile. Have we talked about profiling? We have, haven't
Yeah, we
we? Yeah.
have.
And then, and I ask them, I've got like application questions. So I send that to them as well, which I use that as part of my interview process because I'm seeing, um, their response, like not just the content, but also the response time, like how quickly they get something back to me, if they can get it back to me, how they put it together. It's kind of like an extension of their resume, really.
Mm.
So I really like that process, but it means I also go into that interview knowing a little bit of background information about them. And it means that I can focus on connecting with them in the interview and really talking about talk about like the journey of the business and where we're going so that they can kind of buy in to the business, the values, the direction of the business. So they're kind of going into it with clarity.
Mm.
So yeah, so I'm really looking for the interview. I'm looking for that stuff to be done before the interview so that we can have a really good conversation. And I'm kind of looking to present what we're doing. And then I'm looking at what questions that they're asking in
Mm.
response to that. I want like good questions.
What's a good question for you?
Ooh. Well, I was actually quite impressed with some questions I got today. Like it was just kind of trying to understand the role a little bit more. So what does a typical day look like?
Mm.
Um, you know, and even, what are some different conditions that you're dealing with and what are some strategies that you provide in and around? Like, do you know what I mean? Really trying to understand and almost learn in that instance as
Mm.
well.
Like show actual interest in the role.
Yeah, yeah. And
Or
just see,
genuine.
I kind of like to see how they connect with what I'm saying as well,
Mm.
like just
Which,
their vibe.
yeah, it's important to, so you're reading not only what they're saying, but their body language, their face, what they're doing, how they're responding and reacting. I think
Yeah,
it's really important.
yeah.
Mm.
And then I like to see how they respond with kids as well, because I think that's quite important. So at the moment, we're running our holiday program. So they're coming in during the holiday program, and I'm kind of seeing how they respond, um, like incidentally to the kids that are in the vicinity. So I think
Mm.
that's quite interesting as well.
That's really important, right? If you're
Yeah.
not gelling with children and have a good, comfortable relationship with them,
Yeah,
that's, I think we spoke about in the podcast, that's something that should come quite naturally, I think, to you if you want to work with pediatrics. It's not, going to be refined and super polished, but you have to have a genuine love for children, right?
totally. What
Hmm.
about you? What's your interview process look like?
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking, we've done a lot of different things over the years. We've
Mm.
just changed dramatically what we've been doing. I'd say in the last 12 months, we read a book by Joey Coleman called The First 100 Days as an Employee or something like that.
Oh,
And so previously we'd probably done interviews, maybe typically or tradition in a traditional way, but we've just sort of adapted a lot of different, what do you call it, structures from what he recommends in that book. And it's looking at like kind of what you're saying. You have a lot of touch points with people before they even come into you and me, you face to face. So you're looking at all of those touch points before that to even help you understand them and understand, if they'd be a right fit as well. I think the biggest thing for us, like we have a lot of different procedures. Sometimes we'll do group interviews, sometimes we'll do one-on-ones, sometimes we'll get them, or we'll always get them to come in and have lunch with the team. And the seniors aren't there where they can ask questions. We'll always get them to come in and do observations. We've been picking with the order of that. We used to do a face-to-face interview first and then do observations, but we've been actually doing observations and meet with the team first and then meet with us.
Mm.
We've just been, fiddling around and changing that because to me or to us, it's so important that they actually know who they're working with. Because, we'll
Yeah.
do the interview, I'll do the interview, Brie will do the interview, but they're not working with me on a day-to-day basis. They're working with the other speechies in the business and the admin. And if they don't gel with them, then we're going to have problems. So, you
Mm.
know, so we've just sort of been figuring out like what's most important with that touch point, with those touch points. But where our questions are when we do have a one-on-one or a group interview with people is really about values based. Like we will do clinical probably a little bit down the track or when they're doing observations with the children. We might
Yeah.
ask them some spot questions in the therapy session. But for us, which I don't think anyone's going to be surprised about this, if they listen to our podcast regularly, it's about values. And
Yeah.
so the other resource that we pulled from is The Ideal Team Player by my favorite, Patrick Lencioni,
Mm.
where it's smart, hungry, humble. I think I've said them out of order.
Mm.
And so he gives you a document with key questions. And if you're coming in for an interview at Speak About, you can actually get on top of this process and know what the questions are because we're looking for people who have a genuine humility in the workplace. And that is actually being able to acknowledge your strengths and then what your areas are that you need improvement in. We're looking for people who are hungry, who want to have personal growth, who want to come on board with our vision, who are hungry for improving themselves, and then who are smart. And so smart, it's not intellectually smart. It's just you have common sense, you have a drive about you, you might be having initiative. And so we'll ask questions around values around that. And I think sometimes that may throw people because I don't know what you find, but I find a lot of speeches they'll prepare for clinical questions. What would you do if you had this case or this case? And to be honest, I'm like, we can train you to be the best speechy. We've got all the clinical expertise here that you would need. But if you don't have the right values or even an attitude to learn, that's actually going to impact more than, all of your clinical knowledge. Or if you're not a team player and going to help out the peer next to you, that's really going to affect how we all vibe in the workplace.
Mm.
So that's more important to us from an employer point of view. And I wish that I knew this because when I was going for interviews, I did not know this. And I was
Yeah.
that speechy preparing all the clinical stuff. And I was
Yeah.
feeling very imposter in my clinical knowledge because I didn't do amazing at uni. And so I'm like, if I had actually just calmed myself down and realized, okay, I'm a good person, like it's my values that I'm bringing to the table and a willingness to learn, probably would have saved myself a lot of stress. But
Yeah.
I think that's most important for us of what we're looking for.
How are you extracting that information? Like, I feel like we do that in our application questions. How are you doing it?
The clinical.
No, the values.
The values, oh, we based on questions that we asked.
Yeah.
So we'll ask,
Like face to face in the interview questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
because like you said, we're also looking for how a person responds,
Yeah.
how comfortable they feel sharing. Not to say if a person's uncomfortable, they wouldn't get the job, but
Yeah.
it's just, how are they demonstrating vulnerability? How are they demonstrating honesty or transparency? How
Yeah.
are they demonstrating a little bit of conflict or, how are they handling themselves with confrontation? And because
Yeah.
that skill directly transfers into talking to a parent. In your
Yeah.
sessions, if you're feeling uncomfortable talking to a parent, you need to be able to handle yourself and be genuine and still warm and kind in that moment, because that's what we have to do with a parent all the time.
Yeah.
So we'll ask specific questions like, can you give us a time outside of work or outside of a professional setting where you were generous?
Mm. Yeah.
Um,
Nice. I love that.
where because generosity, we have a lot of projects that align with that in our company as well. So
Yeah.
that's a question. We'd say, how did you deal with working with someone who was the opposite of you or really challenged you? What were
Mm.
your strategies for working together well and successfully getting the project done? We ask quite specific questions, and a lot of it's like, give us an example, nothing to do with speech pathology. or
Yeah.
nothing to do in the workplace. So, it's really just finding out about them as a person, right? And in that you connect
Yeah.
and you build a relationship. But I guess that's what we're all about. We don't want just bums on seats or numbers on
No.
seats. We
Yeah.
want people to actually feel seen, heard, and to belong in the workplace and to slot in with the team and to feel
Yeah.
accepted.
Yeah. Love that. So
Hmm.
good. That's very powerful, I think.
Yeah, it's come after 12 years
Yeah.
of being able to refine, every time you do an interview, I feel like I learn something else. I feel like I learn something different and I go, okay, let's tweak that, let's change that, let's add this question in, take that question out. Or, oh, we've hired this person, but we missed that part about them. How do we understand that better? How do we get that
Mm.
better? And after 12 years, it's still a journey, but you go to go, okay, I am understanding this a bit more, understanding how to read people or, um, find out what people are really like.
Yeah. So interesting. Have you ever like got it really wrong?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, particularly with admin. I feel like when I started the
Yeah.
business,
Yeah.
I really struggled. I mean, I had definitely had a solid admin who was with me for the first 6 years, but it was like hiring then the casual admins, or we had like two shifts for admins, and trying to find that second admin. I yeah, made lots of mistakes. That's another way you learn, right?
Yeah. You know what I have realized, and I've just realized it this year, what I'm attracted to is not necessarily what I need,
Mm. I knew you were going to
which
say something like that. Yeah.
really,
Yeah, I don't know why. I just was like, oh, that's a good point.
yeah, it's something that I realized just in the last few months. And it was through admin recruitment. And I realized, yeah, I was like, one that because I was interviewing for two different businesses, and one that I was really excited about. Um, yeah, what I realized was that what I'm attracted to, particularly in an interview process, is not what is right to complement me, particularly in that support position.
Mm. And so that comes with having a deep understanding of yourself and what
Yeah.
your strengths are and what you bring to the business, like we bring to the business as business owners. So I'm the same as you. I'd naturally be attracted to visionary people and to
Mm.
people who are doing different things and have great ideas, like,
And then
big ideas and they want to change things and move
yeah.
quickly. However, I have also learned that that is not, that is sometimes not what the business needs. We do always need a balance of different people in the
Yep.
company,
Yep.
but to get the tasks done, because I'm not good at, taking things over the line a lot of times or follow up.
Completing and finishing.
Yeah, I need admin who are different to me.
Totally. And I think sometimes the people that finish the tasks aren't necessarily the people that finish them quick. Like they don't necessarily do them quickly, or they're not, that big picture, but they kind of are calculated. They take their time, they're thorough, they're detailed, and
Mm.
they finish it, which is the opposite to me, which can frustrate me, but it's exactly what I need. And so identifying that has been, and you know how the way in which I identified it, which is obviously quite obvious, but I just look at the people that have been in my business for a really long time that I work really well with, that complement my style, that just kind of create this balance between the two of us, are
Mhm.
those people that the tenacity people that operate a little bit slower, that
Because they're more
sometimes,
deep in the details.
yeah, and sometimes they surprise you because you don't necessarily expect like big things because they're that kind of slow and calculated and stable, and they don't jump into the chaos with you. So you kind of can underestimate them, but then you go, whoa, steady. They stabilize everything. They're
Mhm.
exactly what I need to complement my big energy, my kind of, potentially chaos. It's interesting, and I think that's just so powerful learning. But I think it's kind of identifying what sort of strengths you've got in your team. And this is, that team, what you were talking about in terms of that observation and fitting in with the team. And this
Mm.
is, precisely why we do the disc profile, to understand that, or understand a little bit better. But it's kind of going, okay, what have I got in my team? What am I? And what kind of gaps do I need to fill? And how do I figure that out about this person?
And so we also do the working genius, which we
Yeah.
only do that with someone a couple steps down the process because you've got to pay
Yeah.
for it. But with the
Yeah.
working genius, when you do that with your whole team on the back end, you can input it and it comes up with a team map. And so you can really easily identify your gaps. And when we
Yeah.
were looking for our latest admin, I was like, we're looking for this profile because this is our exact gap in the business and this is what we need. And then we sort of, yeah, worked with that. Obviously, there's lots of other factors in there too, but it's
Yeah.
just another thing that helps you discern the right person
Yeah.
for what, because it's not about us, is it? It's not about, oh, if you gel with us, if we'd be great friends. It's actually what that person can bring to the company and the value that they bring. Because if they can bring great value, they will feel valued and they will feel like they're doing a good job.
Yeah, I
So
love that. Yeah.
yeah, if that's there, then it sort of all aligns and all the ducks are in a row. But in saying that, it is really important that we have different personalities, different people, different interests in the business, but we have a common goal, which for us is
Yeah.
speech pathology, a love of helping children. And so then that is then what unites us, and we have a common vision to help children and progress health outcomes for Australian children. So, it's sort of that vision as well unites all the different personalities and the different traits that everyone brings. Um, I think another important thing with interviews, I love how you said like the timeliness of stuff.
The
The
what?
timeliness, like you were saying, you were looking
Mm.
at how people, is it like how quick people get answers back to you or just,
Just the process. Like it, and I won't, if they don't get it back to me super quick, I don't go, oh,
yeah.
they're not working fast enough. It's more just starting to understand and learn how they operate.
Mm,
And you start to kind of gather that information, and then you put it all together to see if it will work for what you need. But I'm
mm,
gathering information in that process very similarly to what I'm doing if I'm working in a clinical capacity. Like I am gathering information so I can create a picture for what I understand how this person is going to operate. It gives me information.
so you can support them, I guess.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
feel like I was that person in interviews where I would be like, I don't want to leave any detail out. Like I want to give as much as
Mm.
possible. And so then I would take more time and I would be it's actually funny because I'd be a bit perfectionistic about it. I'm not a perfectionist at all, but in that process, your tendencies and traits can change because you're under stress. And that's what the DISC profile does identify, that when you're in times of stress, your traits can change, and that's completely normal. So I'm not a cautious person, but in times of stress, my cautiousness goes up because I become really detail orientated. And so I think it's just to touch on the timeliness, because I feel like most interview places would give questions or pre-questions. Um, it's a matter of getting the question done thoroughly but not being perfectionistic about it, but then also not rushing it. So it's just taking an appropriate amount of time, which generally, like, if someone comes, we always say to come to our interview process like face to face 5 to 10 minutes early so you can complete a clinical questionnaire.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's the appropriate amount of time that we would give someone. So then when we see people, after the interview staying for half an hour longer filling that in, I think to myself, stop stressing yourself out. Like because you can't really go to them and say that's enough because then you don't want them to feel bad. But it's just thinking that through and knowing that it doesn't have to be perfect with the timeliness, but not too short either.
Yeah, and it just kind of sets that, like, if they are successful, it sets that up for success in knowing how, like you're saying, you can best support them. The other thing that I like about it is that it gives them an opportunity to present themselves in a different way. So
Mm.
potentially they might get super nervous and they might not interview well in an interview, but then they can put together their responses in written form, which suits them better, and they can kind of really present themselves in a different way, which I think is quite important.
Mm. And you know what? If a person I was interviewee came in and they said to me, I'm really nervous. I may not present as well as I know I can. I feel like I'm stronger with written, or I'm just going to be better after a couple of conversations. I would totally respect that as a future potential employer. And I would actually be so wowed by that answer. I'd be so wowed and I would just be so impressed by that answer that I would probably just be like 5 stars straight away or 5 ticks straight away. So I think it's best to actually come in and own how you're feeling in an interview and to probably display a little bit of vulnerability.
Absolutely. I would love that as well. I think because it also, I mean, even I think as an interviewee, like I think you can, without oversharing, like vulnerability is powerful. It's powerful. I think it's, and you can kind of demonstrate how you respond to certain situations and how open you are, like what we were saying before, like how open you are to stretching yourself and being vulnerable and learning and growing. Like I just think that it's really powerful, and I don't think many people do it.
No, and if, as I was saying, if someone comes in and was to do it, I'd be like, yes, big green tick.
Totally. Yeah. Interesting. Hey.
But yeah, I mean, I think if you're a person, if you're about to be a new grad, EP or Speechie or any allied health professional, um, it's the basic things to think about are, your workplace, your population, whether you want to go niche or maybe more generalist, which we've done podcast episodes on all this, haven't we?
Yeah.
What the workplace is offering you. But I think the most important thing as a new graduate is that you feel very supported. So
Mm.
that's personally and professionally. And, if you have questions around that in your interview, I think that the boss would respond quite well to that if they are doing the right things. I would love people to ask that, how will I be supported? And also then what are the gaps in the business? Like what can I bring to the company? Even though I'm a new grad, I still have great skills and I have great talent. So what can I bring? And just thinking about this support and that interaction for the first couple of years, I think is super important.
Yeah, I actually love it when they ask about what PD is provided and what clinical support is provided, because I think that shows, it just demonstrates that they value that and they
Mm.
want that support. And I think I like that when they ask about that.
Mm. And I guess you're then demonstrating an understanding of the company. The
Mm.
biggest thing that I cannot stand is do not come into the interview and not have read the company website, not have read about or looked at our social media, looked at our Facebook, our Instagram, looked at what I'm doing, because it's so important to me that you know who you're interviewing for and what company you're interviewing for, and that you actually want to work with us. And it's not just like another interview, because come on, like everyone doesn't have just time to just sit there and talk about the company when you can find that information out yourself. So that would be my biggest pet peeve with people. It doesn't happen very often, but it happens sometimes with admin.
Yeah, and I think you should like, I feel like it goes a long way to say, I saw on your website, or
Yeah.
I see that like if someone said, I saw on your social media, or I see on your website that this is what you do. And I think that, you know, adding that into the conversation goes a long way.
Yeah, it's brownie points, right?
But make sure you've read it, because if you've said that and then I ask you a question and you don't know about it, then I'm gonna know.
Um, So yeah, so there's a few little tips in there that we've got for you with interviews. What it is good to know, I guess, from the employer point of view and then from an employee point of view, what you can do and how you can prepare. I think at the end of the day, um, there's a lot of pressure put on getting a job, but you need to make sure that you're really happy with the job that you
Mm.
get. So it is very important to make sure that you are aligned. I do say this in our interviews that that person is aligned as much as we are aligned with you. So it's both ways. So the interview is for you to interview the employer as much as the employer to interview you. And if
Yeah.
you feel like that's not happening, maybe just have a look at that workplace because it should be an equal balance and a mutual relationship and getting to know each other and whether that's the best place for you. We want allied health professionals to be staying allied health professionals and having good experiences as new grads so that they stay in the profession long term to keep helping the populations that we see and that we help. Lizzie, do you have stuff for new grads on your website, or if they're wanting to know more about this?
I don't have anything about recruitment process really. My most of my stuff is the clinical stuff. Do you?
I have an ebook. I have an ebook
Cool.
for speechies. It's called The Successful Speechie, and it's specifically for students or students to be in new grads. And it's like my 7 top tips on how to survive and thrive in your first, no, how to thrive in your first year. And I have some really practical tips from mentoring, I don't know, hundreds of students, and then the common mistakes that they would make. So how you can really just work through those. And I have lots of call to actions and implementation
What are
tips.
some common mistakes?
Ooh, well, one of them would be
Mm.
looking too far ahead, because you base the future on your current skill set, but the future is actually based on your skill set that you will have in the future, which is
Mm.
like growth. So you sort of,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just one tip off the top
Yeah,
of my
cool.
head. But yeah, there's
Okay.
lots of little things like that that can help you have a really successful new grad year. And I think with the interview process, figure that out as well. It's all about understanding yourself as
Yeah.
new grad, which again can be hard because there's so
Mm.
many things to learn. But yeah, I can put the link for the ebook under there. And then if you're wanting to improve your clinical expertise as an EP, Lizzie's courses will be linked. And then clinical or preschool language with me, that will be linked underneath. If you have any questions or are wanting to chat about interviews that you're going through or how to pick the right workplace for yourself, we do have other episodes, which we will link as well. And you can always send us a message if you found this podcast helpful. Send it to your peer, as everyone's going through the same things with finding jobs. And until next time, we hope you have a lovely week and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.